Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're at today. We have an early show or space to, you know, hit the ground running with. Um, Let me get these controls sorted out. And Isaac, I see what you're doing. Let me get you on the other account and see if we can't get you going that way, bud. Welcome to the longest running poker space. I'm the original queen of spaces. You know, the first lady of poker spaces, the original female OG. Yes, all true, but yes, all a troll as well. Um, anyway, I'm your host, Sherry Pluskota. Welcome today as we wait for Matt, of course, who is working at the WPT at Hard Rock Hollywood right now. So I'm sure he'll get in here as soon as he gets the chance. Welcome to ASG and to Isaac, my co host, and also to Andreas. Andreas, did you want to be a co host today? Can you guys hear me? Okay,
Yes, but I couldn't hear
okay,
anything.
Yeah, I can hear you.
okay, perfect. Andreas, can you hear me? He might be having issues. All right, Andreas, I'm just going to say to you, maybe go out and come back in, and that might solve the problem for you.
I'm here.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm good. Just got on the floor here at the Hard Rock, but I'm in.
Awesome. All right, we're going to try to get Andreas back up here. Of course, Twitter does those things to us sometimes, and we'll see if we can't get him up here. But until then, I do want to give a proper introduction. My guest today is Matt Savage. He is the executive tour director for the WPT and also does the TD work at both the Casino in Thunder Valley from time to time. He has worked at the WSOP as well as many networks, including Fox, the Travel Network, ESPN, to name a few. He developed a new style of poker tournament called the Savage Average and continues to oversee the TDA, which he founded with others in 2001. These are just a few of the many reasons he should be inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame, by the way. And that discussion's for another day, but please remember that when you're submitting and voting on who you want to see inducted this year. So welcome, Matt. I'm glad you can join us today.
Hello, happy to be here.
Love it. I love these kind of conversations. Anytime we can go right to the source and not only praise you for the great things you do, but also have valid conversations about the rules and regulations. So, first of all, let me make sure, Andreas, are you there, buddy?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Perfect.
Appreciate you. But before we get knee deep into it, for those that may not know, Matt, can you tell us what the TDA is?
Tournament Directors Association started in 2001. It was an idea that I had as I was a tournament player playing around the Bay Area. And everywhere I went, the rules were different. So I had the idea to come to Las Vegas, go into the WSOP, which, by the way, was the first time I ever stepped foot at the World Series of Poker was 2001. And I went to the tournament directors there and said, we need to standardize the rules because people are doing things different all over, including at the World Series of Poker. And they said, it's already been tried, but we're not interested in trying to do that. Well, luckily, I was friends with Linda Johnson, who had the World Poker Industry Conference already. And she gave us a venue and was one of the initial founders of the TDA, along with Jan Fisher and David Lamb. And now the TDA has standardized the rules and procedures for most tournaments, if not all tournaments around the world. And that all came out of that 2001 start, which means that we're on our silver anniversary. This is 25 years that the TDA has been in place.
And congratulations on that feat. And I know that those rules have evolved through the years, and that's why we're here today. So if any of my listeners have any rules they want to discuss, if they want to have maybe suggest get implemented or suggest we take out of the TDA, now's the time to talk directly to the person that can help make that happen. And guess what? He can also give opinion as to why maybe that had been discussed in the past and never put into the rules. So now's your chance to have your voice heard. So please request a microphone. Everybody is welcome. Don't think any topic is off topics. We are here to listen to them all because Matt is trying to come up with his topics for discussion for this year's Tournament Director Association meeting, which is June. Is it 29th and 30th?
29th and 30th, first year ever. It's on a Monday and Tuesday, which works out really good for a lot of the people in the industry. As most people know, Monday and Tuesday are the slowest days of the week in any poker room.
Right. And you can sign up to go to the attend that meeting. Just go on to, follow, of course, Matt on Twitter, and you will see a link there if you want to go to that TDA Summit and be a part of the live discussion. So, ASG, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So before we get into maybe the hot topics you brought up in your original thread, and some of this is related, I just wanted to see what you thought of the new WSOP rules that came out yesterday, because they aren't completely uh, in line with the TDA. So just wanted to see what you thought of
I haven't had a
their
chance to
slight revisions.
haven't had a chance to see him yet. I'm not sure exactly what would be different. I'm sure that I will get a chance to do so. I'm actually down in South Florida at the Hard Rock, Seminole Hard Rock, for an event. So I'm here this week doing that. So I haven't had a chance to see that yet. But I would be very interested to see what you think or what other people say are differences in the rules between what we have and what they have.
Okay,
Basically,
SG.
because Jack Effel's on the board. So,
Right. Okay,
yeah.
SG, if you could pull those up and read them to us from Kevin Mathers post, that'll be great. Until you do that, though, I'm going to turn the floor over to Andres, who reached out to me about hosting this space, and so that's why we're here today, because he had some topics to discuss, and so we're going to start out with his topic or topics. So, Andreas, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for Matt making time for these spaces to address the TDA. One of the most important things that I have for today's spaces is, in my opinion, for specifically the mid-stakes and lower stakes tournament, something between $600 and $1,500. As people are a little bit less vigilant as on high stakes, where these angle shoots that I discussed in my last video aren't really possible. People are going to interrupt that very quickly. On these lower stakes, people find some sneaky ways to angle less experienced players. Sometimes when the action is three-handed or three-way or four-way, and then you're involved and you're basically losing significant EV to this angle shoot because you're in a three-handed situation. And I have a few suggestions regarding making it less possible for people to find sneaky ways to pull these angles. I mean, one of the things that I noticed is, for example, chip hoarding. And I think, Matt, you just tweeted at me earlier that you want to do something about that. That is when a short stack starts hoarding all the small denomination chips, he can then pull off two things. He can stall the game near the bubble because he has so many more chips. The dealer needs to count a little bit more. That can net him like 1 or 2 minutes sometimes. I've seen it happening. And then also he can obviously confuse people on how many big blinds he has. And sometimes if he has all the small denomination chips, he can then put out a bet that looks a lot bigger, and then less experienced players will fold more, which you can think is a clever thing to do. But I think it should be just outruled entirely and should not be a thing in poker. This should not be an advantage that people can take. Especially to like a large degree. Like if you have a few small chips, nobody cares. But if you take like 90% of them and then you refuse to trade in those chips, that's just ridiculous. And it gives you additional EV against bad players. That is not in the spirit of the game, in my opinion.
Okay, so Matt, how do you address that?
Well, as people know, I do not allow people to hoard chips because I will color them up if I see them attempting to do that. Not only that, on the World Poker Tour, we have the action clocks in play. when we're approaching the bubble and on the bubble. So it is mandatory at that point that chip stacks are maintained in stacks of 20. And because of that, it really limits people from doing that. But yes, what Andreas is saying, I've seen happen, and TDs and cardinal managers need to try and eliminate that whenever possible.
Your signal's getting a little weaker and muffled, Matt, just for the record.
Okay.
Andreas, go ahead with the next thing.
Yeah, there's an additional spot that I noticed when you're playing a very rare game, which is Hold'em PLO mixed, when you go from like 4 cards to 2 cards and it's the 9th hand, then the game switches and the dealer might pitch a 3rd card and it would be a misdeal if you go from PLO to Hold'em. However, this spot that I had last year came up when we went from Hold'em to PLO. We're playing the 9th hand and I told the dealer it's game change and he needs to pitch PLO at the beginning of the hand. And then I noticed as he pitched the 2nd round, he stopped on the button and I immediately told him 2 more cards. And then unfortunately, as Under the Gun and Under the Gun +1 had already seen their cards, they quickly mucked, and we were like 50 left out of 3,500. So we're very, very deep into the tournament. And I think I told you that in Liechtenstein when I saw you, for the first time. I described to you the situation. And I found that super unfair. The floor came over, and unfortunately, it was on the other side of my table. He talked to Under the Gun, the dealer, and Under the Gun +1, who both mucked, who obviously wanted the hand not to be a PLO hand because they already mucked their hand and didn't pay attention. And then he ruled it an entire misdeal, which I think is super ridiculous. And it is tying into a larger concept, which is people trying to get misdeals in those, like it wouldn't happen if there are high stakes players on the tables, like multiples of them, because they would be all vigilant, and this doesn't really happen there. But on the lower stakes, people might not pay so much attention, and then somebody tries to get a misdeal, and he gets the misdeal through despite already having looked at his hand, and that nets him like a lot of EV. Like if he folds his Under the Gun hand, he gets a fresh hand that makes him a lot of money. And that happened, unfortunately, against me in that case. And I missed my cutoff race first in, costing me probably $500 plus. And obviously, it's very annoying to deal with. And I've seen it multiple times in minor cases, but this was one of the cases where we were deep into a tournament. Any thoughts on how you could address that in TDA, that it happens less, or floor are easier to enforce, wrong misdeals, or not do that, actually not follow into the trap of having a misdeal that's not a misdeal?
Yeah, in that case, I just definitely think that you need a stronger tournament director that is, able to see what's actually going on there. And, you just say those 2 hands are dead and continue to deal 2 more cards to everybody else at the table. That is not significant action, by the way. So 2 folds is not considered significant. It's 3 folds are considered significant, or 2 actions with chips. So you were trying to stop them before that even got to that point would make me to just continue to deal that hand. And once we've done that, those 2 players are out of the hand and we continue.
Yeah, in that case, I mean, significant action, which would have passed by 3 actions, would have been fine with me. Like, let's say 3 people would have folded, or somebody would have limped after 2 folds. Then, yeah, I can understand. But like the misdeal was kind of his worst option, and yeah, he just walked off really quickly, and it was like very, very hard for me to get an overruling there. And I also wasn't like aware, how to enforce it like so quickly that you can call a higher floor immediately. And since last year, somebody told me that I can do that, and even though I would have stalled the game at that point, it would have been worth it for sure. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
At least at that point, even if the floor had already made the misdeal and caused the misdeal to happen, you could still have the higher floor come over and explain why that decision was made. And if he felt that the decision was incorrect, he could, inform those players, not to do that type of behavior in the future. Since it was pretty clear that you were making it obvious that it was PLO at that point.
In general, I do see that there's also a pattern. I've seen poker players in that spot, Under the Gun and Under the Gun +1. They might not understand what they're doing. Like, they're finding a sneaky way of getting a free hand. In their internal view, they might not think of themselves of doing that, right? So how can we have players through a rule set have less options to find angles like that, so that they can say, well, yeah, let's have a misdeal and stuff, and the majority rules. And also them having actual risk in doing so, because a lot of the times what I see is people take these angles and they might get a small warning, but they have no real risk unless they do something absurd, like folding out of turn with like 5 left or something, right? And that would give them a round of penalty very often, and I've seen it a ton of the time. But a lot of the times I also see no penalty whatsoever, and them kind of free rolling the spot when they see it happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always against people trying to free roll a situation like that. And and I know we could definitely overrule the fact that that would be a misdeal. It's a mental note for any floor person or anybody that's in that situation to the other players. Hey, this player has done that before, so there's definitely that type of situation where you're trying to block people from doing future angles, and uh, always that's the one thing that I'm always looking out for is people that are trying to take advantage of the rules that are already in place, and that seems like that's what happened in that situation.
All right, and there's more things that I've seen that people try to net EV. This is, for example, like a very popular vlogger. I'm not going to mention names because it's not going to add it to the discussion. He used like a selfie stick, and then he, in the middle of a hand, which was multi-way, he basically pushed like the camera very close to an opponent, forcing a kind of reaction. And I think that's kind of ridiculous. I mean,
yeah.
Why does he have the additional AV option? I cannot do that as another player, right? I mean, I don't mind vloggers because they add value to the game, but they should have a static camera being on the game, and they shouldn't be able to move it around into other people's faces and gain EV from other people's reactions. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it should be in the TDA, like in some short form, maybe in Rule 70, like excessive chatter, excessive, especially multi-way, 3-way, 4-way.
Yeah, probably figure out who that is just hearing with the selfie stick. But yeah, I mean, there are situations like that, and with um, the celebration, it seems like of Cabral and William Kassouf and things like that. It definitely seems like something we could probably add to the excessive chatter area of the TDA.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it personally after the hand, and as long as it's not like excessive yelling and it's just normal celebration, it adds like a lot of cool clips and stuff. Some people celebrate that. I think that's good for poker. But I just don't want it to be in a 3-way spot where equities are shifted, where another player is affected, because it's multi-way poker. As little multi-way talk as we can that's giving away the strength of somebody's hand would be desirable.
Definitely, and I've always been strong proponent of keeping that rule where you're not able to discuss the contents of your hand. Over the years, I've had a lot of players, and probably some in this chat right here, that feel like you should be able to say anything at any time. I have been strongly against that. Daniel Negreanu, Phil Hellmuth for many, many years on this, for the last 20 years. I think they finally relented and haven't brought it up in the last to 10 years, but I think that it's something that you have to be able to protect all players, and I'm talking not just at the highest stakes. I'm talking about the daily tournament where two people who are going to be friends and they're going to say to each other, "Hey, I have aces," and don't fold your hand, right? With the way they want it, they think that that should be okay because nobody would do that in their opinion. But yeah, I've seen it happen over and over again, even though we had this rule in place. So to protect all players, I think we need to have that rule that you cannot disclose the contents of your hand. And of course, multi-way, there should be no talking as to strength of hands.
Yeah, and there was like one more specific spot which ties into what constitutes a bet. There has been this player who the pot roughly 350K. We're playing pot limit Omaha. We have a low SPR below 2, so the money's going in a lot of the time 3-way. He continuation bets pushing a 100K stack forward, but he doesn't release. He looks at the other recreational player who immediately jams on him a little bit too early, and obviously is making a mistake there as well. I'm then third to act out of position, and I checked it over to the guy who bet. And then I basically say, what's going on here? I mean, he's just pulled back like the majority of his bet because he only leaves out 20K instead of his 100K. And the dealer saw how he did it, and then discussion starts, floor gets called over, and then he's ruling with like he didn't release his chips, which was frankly like he ended up betting 20K into 350K, which netted him like a lot of EV again. And then I jammed, and because I had a good hand, and he could obviously also tell because I was like so interested in like having a ruling. Obviously, it hurts my equity in many ways. And then it gets back to him, and he manages to fold a ridiculously strong hand, which he wouldn't have been able to fold otherwise. So what is the rules actually technically good enough already for floors if they're trained properly to not make a silly mistake there, in my opinion? Or is that non-release thing, is that really still a thing? Or
yeah, it's the bet is this. It's always what's cut out of your hand. Now, you could say that the player that brought those chips forward was the one angling. I could also make a case for the guy that raised behind him was angling. You understand what I'm saying? That players moving with their chips before a player finishes their action is a player that's acting out of turn. We want players to act in turn, and in that case, the player that was acting second did not wait until the action was done. Therefore, he is also acting out of turn. Do you see what I'm saying there?
Sure. Yeah.
So you're making the claim that the player behind was a recreational player and an amateur. We have to protect all situations. So what you cut out of your hand is the bet. Okay. If a player is continually moving forward with a bunch of chips and then just dropping a few, yes, we want to stop that. What I'm saying is that I want players to act in turn. And in this case, the second player, me not being there, is a player that's also acting out of turn.
Mm-hmm. So I thought of another situation in Dublin where they have rulings based on pot size, right? And like somehow like something being reasonable, like on Jack 7-4 two-tone, this guy betting, being allowed to then angle shoot me as the third player, betting 20K into 350K would not be possible if, you know, a similar spirit was ruled by the floor there, right? I mean, it would also be a horrendous bet size to bet 20K into 350K there with whatever his range was as the three better. It would have accomplished like very little, in my opinion. But that's strategic, right? You cannot really have that in rules. But yeah, the pot's huge. He bets like much less than 10% on a very dynamic board with a hand that is often aces. And because the other guy basically makes an angle, as you say, in position and shoves a little bit too early, he then angles me. And I'm actually the only one that gets penalized here by this ruling, because it allows the second player to bet a horrendous bet size, knowing that the in-position player will shove. This bet size is only good if you already know that the in-position player shoves. So he basically was able to maximizing the leverage on the premature shove there, right? That's what happened in game, and it would have been never possible without that ruling to bet such a small bet size, which lets him gain a lot of EV on me, because then I need to decide for all of my chips, and he gets to only commit a very small amount to get the information whether I'm going to shove or not. So that's the worst outcome for me.
Of course, and in these type of situations, we need to clear out those angle shoots and stop players from doing things like that. And you know, again, if the TD is a strong TD, he can figure out what's going on in that position and handle those things accordingly. There's no way for the TDA to make rulings about every single situation, and then that one probably is bad. But again, you know, we need to handle those things on a case by case basis. So. I mean, in some respects, it's you want the rules to be clear and you want them to be black and white, but you really cannot make a complete ruling on every single situation. But
would it be possible to let's say hypothetically, you know, he ended up, let's say in the 350K, he wanted to bet 300, but then is allowed to bet 200. That wouldn't be as ridiculous, right? If he was able to pull back his last stack, if he made some weird bet with his hands, right? But to then allow him to bet 20K into 350K, I think that could actually be there could be a finesse in the rules which wouldn't even remotely allow that from happening. Right, where you have like a common sense rule, such as a significant amount of time if somebody calls clock. That's also going into that direction, right? Where you think, okay, significant is maybe 2 minutes, a minute, depending on a spot. Here, betting 20K, making the ruling of having somebody bet that spot 20K into 350K is penalizing me as a third player so much that it's somewhere in the rules that this ruling can almost never happen in with these parameters. Is that even possible?
Seems difficult. We see a lot of things as we're walking around the floor, and players make mistakes all the time too, which, you don't want to take mistakes out of the game either. But if it's an obvious angle shoot, we want to stop that as well. So again, it's very tough to make clear rulings on every single situation. But yeah, you really need to have a strong TD in the room that can decipher what is going on in these situations. And of course, if something like that happens, even as much as a penalty could be warranted in that situation.
Okay, last point, and I rest my case. Headphones. I think you already posted that as well. Aren't you worried that people will find advanced ways of having whole card information of another player being directed to them through headphones or wireless earplugs? I think for me personally, I'm a person that would say like it's not a big risk. It's below 1% per player. Obviously, it's below 1% risk. But when it happens, it's for so much equity that I would not prioritize people's convenience of having headphones in a poker game. The phones are already like a little bit dicey, but headphones I think are much worse because you can just give so much information in like a sign language through headphones. It's insane. I mean, you can cheat so hard with these tools. I don't know why nobody's ever got caught, or maybe we haven't heard of it got caught. But I think it's just a tremendous risk in poker. What are your thoughts?
2 summits ago and last summit, I said we would be discussing headphones and cell phones at this summit and at the next one and at the next one. And I said, at some point, we're going to have to be really, really strict and, possibly remove phones, headphones, and the like. And I feel more that way now than ever. I think that it's only a matter of time before we have some major scandal with headphones. I think it's the biggest risk we have to the game right now is headphones. I think it's even more risky than cell phones or any other kind of device. Meta glasses, we're already taking those out of use over and over again. They're showing up at these tournaments over and over. But I think that the headphones itself are going to be the biggest problem that we're going to have going forward. I know people don't agree with me on that, and I think it's going to be a major discussion at this year's summit. But people need to open their eyes and understand that the technology is so far advanced now, even than it was 2 years ago and 4 years ago, and will be even more advanced in 2 years. So the fact that people think that I'm crazy by saying that we're going to have to remove headphones, I think that they're going to have to wait and see a big scandal before they realize that what I'm saying is true. I said it 2 years ago. I said we need to discuss having headphones taken out of the game. Nobody seemed to agree with me. I was far minority, and it's going to come up again this year. I can promise you that.
Yeah, best of luck with all of that idea. I mean, hopefully that at some point it's not going to be a minority anymore. Some things can be changing very quickly, and I hope that this is the case here. Yeah, thanks a lot for answering my questions. I hope some other people have.
Of course, Andreas, and if you happen to be in town during that time, I would love to have you attend the summit. I'm always welcoming players there that have strong opinions like you do about certain things, and only the things that you're saying only benefit the TDA. And a lot of people over the years have said, why are a bunch of tournament directors and why are a bunch of card room managers making decisions about the rules? And it's one of the things that frustrates me the most is because not only are we tournament directors and card room managers, we're also players, and we've come from a playing background, and we are always open to players attending the summit. We're always open to players having opinions and bringing it in. And most of the rules that we have in place now are because of players like yourself that bring up topics, and that's how we institute these rules going forward. So it's not just a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing making the rules for the game, because we're not getting paid for it. So the fact that we're showing up at this TDA Summit means that we care about making the game and the integrity of the game going forward, the most important aspect. So again, appreciate you saying that, and hopefully you're going to be able to make it this year to the summit.
Thank you, Andreas. And thank you, Matt, for always being willing to listen and give your opinion and direction so we can all learn together. And before we move on, I'm going to make a couple of announcements. First of all, we have the 7th Spaces meetup game at the Bellagio on June the 26th at 2 p.m. Everybody's welcome. Also, I'm going to be doing an ODB Baker poker fantasy team. We have about 3 spots open. If anybody's interested, reach out to me in a DM and you can join that team. Let's go back to questions or comments for Towelie. So ASG, did you want to bring up any of those rules that Kevin Mathers posted about yesterday?
Well, the ones he posted about yesterday were mostly just about like patching and payment and stuff. But in the replies, when somebody asked about meta glasses, he posted the rule that I pinned there that says it is unlawful for any person to use, possess with intent to use, or assist another person in using or possessing with the intent to use any computerized, electronic, electrical, or mechanical device. Basically, like, any software, like any kind of solver software stuff. But like, I don't know, it's still, in my opinion, very gray on the glasses in the WSOP rules, in my opinion. At least until you get to 3 tables, and then once you get to 3 tables, then you're not allowed to have anything. So
Yeah, I mean, I believe that they've already made their statement on that in years past. A player that I know very well was wearing them. I think it was even 2 years ago. The fact that they had them remove them from wearing them, we do remove them already in all tournaments on the WPT and at every property that we partner with. So the fact that we do that, I think that that's going in that direction. I think we're going to likely come up with a little stronger language this year at the TDA Summit. But yeah, those will not be allowed to be being worn. And I'm not sure if they are going to allow their vloggers to now wear them or not, but I wouldn't think that they would do that just because it's such a line there that's drawn. I think that they'll have to use the phones like they have in the past. And I am a supporter of vloggers as well, like I told Andreas, but I think that, they have to be within the guidelines of what everybody else is able to do as well.
makes sense to me. So since you already brought up their names, I guess the first question I'd ask is like, is there any talk of, I don't want to call it a super Cabral rule, but basically a rule regarding not just the table talk, but how much is allowed when there's no action clocks for how much time you can take, and whether it's like the WSOP multiple times, and I saw nowhere in the rule book where they were allowed to do it, but they did it. Like basically put them on a 10-second clock from the minute they got their hand, which feels both extreme and not in the rule book. But like, yeah, if there's some way to limit the time they take by using, the delay of game rules more than putting them on a clock when nobody else is on a clock, that might be a little, how do you determine whether 10 seconds is enough for any one decision, as opposed to in general?
Well, let me just start by saying I think that sometimes these players actually are highlighted rather than to be stopped from doing what they're doing. And, where's the line between entertainment and abuse? And I think we need to define what that line is. And um, I've had conversations. I spoke to both Kasuf and Cabral last year. Um, Cabral, yeah, he could be annoying at times, but I think he takes it to the very limit. But he's also very entertaining. As Poker News and Poker Org and all of the uh, all of the media outlets love to cover him because they think he's entertaining. Is his bit a little bit tired and and worn out at this point? Probably. He needs to change his material a little bit. But I think that what he was doing last year was definitely to the very limit of what should be allowed, and in some cases not allowed. Right? You can't allow him to abuse other players at the table. It's already written into the TDA rules. It's already written into the WSOP rules, which include TDA rules, by the way. But what Kasuf is doing, I think, is over the top. And I'm glad that Jack put a stop to it last year. I think they let it get a little bit too far out of hand when he had to step in. He had already done things that I think are against the rules. I had that conversation with Kasuf. He played the very next event that I was at in Cyprus.
Oh, we lost you, Matt. We cannot hear you.
Be allowed to.
Matt, you cut out there, buddy.
Somebody was calling me.
Okay. You met with him in Cyprus.
Hold on. I met with him in Cyprus, yes, and I told him he would not be allowed to, act like he had acted at the WSOP. So the fact that, I did that, he tried to, amp it up a little bit at one point, and I went over and just straight told him. I said, "All right, this is what we talked about before. You're not allowed to do that." And he is allowed to uh, have some table talk. He's allowed to do that, but he's not allowed to delay the game. He's not allowed to abuse any other players when he's doing so. And the fact that other players like to try and get him going and then try to abuse him back, I don't allow that as well. So I think it's all within limits, and I would love to see the fact that these guys are under control and that they're able to do anything else that any other player is allowed to do, but not delay the game or not be abusive to players, dealers, staff, anybody like that. Cabral can be a little abusive towards the staff if he feels like a ruling's not correct, and I think that those players need to be penalized and maybe even disqualified if they continue with that behavior. So it is a fine line. Like I said, they are entertaining to some. When they are on the live streams, when they have the videos, those are the ones that get the clicks. So us as operators and as people that have these tours and have these events, we love the clicks too, right? We want people to click on what we're doing as well. So that's why it's a very fine line between what is allowed and what should be allowed. That's for sure.
Was go
Okay. Okay. So to go into other examples from the WSOP, you had both Michael Risraki and Ike Haxton have two different one chip behind issues with uh, different results. So you had Ike, where the entire table is incentivized not to call clock, where he then goes all in with one chip behind. Somebody then reshoves, and once again they're incentivized not to call clock. Because I think they were close to the money, or I think this was on the money by Wolfe, the main event. Yeah, so basically the table is incentivized not to call clock, both on his initial shove with one chip behind and then calling off one chip, but without somebody calling clock. Like, that's unfair to the other tables. So how can the TDA address this?
Yeah, what I did, I think, and I've said as much publicly, it was nonsense. He said, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a stall on purpose, and anybody is allowed to call clock on me on the table." Right? Well, you can't do that because, like you said, they're all incentivized to do that as well. Uh, they are incentivized because it's a big pay jump at that level to just sit there and wait as well. So that at that case, you have so many floor around, the staff need to step in and correct that. The one chip rule, in my opinion, there is no rule. Players are allowed to do so. Uh, I think that with the addition of action clocks, which we use on the World Poker Tour, we're given a set number of time extensions. And I think that you should be able to use those strategically. I know that there are a lot of tournament directors and card room managers out there that disagree with me. And we're going to have that discussion at the TDA this year. I think if you have them, if you've saved them, I think you should be able to use them whenever you want to use them strategically or whatnot. But there are those that feel like they're not to be used for that type of purpose. I think if you've saved them and if you have them, you can do so. And again, let me go back to say that with the use of these action clocks, I think that the reduction of the amount of time that you have pre-flop is also important. On the World Poker Tour, we're at 15 seconds pre-flop, 30 post-flop. With 15 seconds, I think that players should be allowed to use that whole 15 seconds. And in this situation, I want to make sure that that's the case. I want them to be able to, use their time wisely and use their time as they feel they fit. Because I think that, if we're going to have these action clocks in play, we have to allow players to use them to the full extent if necessary. But I think that, without those clocks, and they don't have them in a lot of situations uh, at the World Series, and they may have them more this year than ever before. I would imagine that would be the case. I think that you'll see some of the same stuff. But of course, when a player does that, leaves that one chip behind, uh, I think a floor needs to step in at that point in such a big spot and say, okay, you've had enough time. Let's go to the next card.
Okay, and then we had somebody went in with one chip behind, but I think it was also used as like card protector. So he goes with one chip behind. Mizrahi, not realizing he has one chip behind, calls, turns over his cards, and some people were saying, well, technically, Mizrahi should have gotten a 1-round penalty for exposing his cards before all the action.
Yeah, absolutely not. I've never given that penalty. I've seen it happen multiple times, probably 10 times now, where somebody does that, they move forward. And the fact that they move forward, leave one chip behind, and their hands may even be covering as they're moving forward. The player just says call. Yeah, I'm never giving a penalty in that spot, but I am allowing at that point for Mizrahi to now act on his hand and say, okay, I didn't see that one card behind, so I'm moving all in, and the player can either call or fold, at that spot, and even use more time if the situation is right. There are strategic reasons for leaving one chip behind. I think it is unfortunately part of the game right now. It is super annoying for a lot of people in this game, including a lot of the people that are watching these players do that. But I do think it is a strategy, and I think it's a sound one. I mean, if it wasn't, a lot of these top players wouldn't be using it. So I think we're here to see more and more of that, unfortunately, but it's here to stay. So, yeah, I'm never going to penalize in that situation where Mizrahi had done that, but I am going to give him an opportunity to act on his hand.
Okay, thank you. And then just last question, since not all about the WSOP. Should there be something in the TDA about pausing the clock for when there's deal making questions or whatever stuff going on?
Meaning what? Oh, for pausing the clock. Yeah, I don't know what the WSP.
Pausing the tournament clock. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for allowing deals. I think if there's not added money or there's no other thing, I think that deals are a part of poker and always have been a part of poker. I am always up for pausing the clock the first time. There have been situations where I paused the clock more than once. But what has happened over the years is that players will say, okay, if one player goes out, we'll do it again. We'll stop the clock and we'll talk about a deal. So yeah, I'm up for stopping the clock one time, but after that, I think that you just let the clock run. So you don't have these 15-minute discussions about what deals should be made.
Okay, that's because I didn't think there was anything in the TDA about buzzing the clock now, and I know that's come up a couple
Yeah,
of
that's good.
times.
That's something
where
I'll add. I'll add
it's
that
been
to the
good
list.
fuckers.
Well, and let's not forget WSOP does not let us broker deals.
Oh, they don't?
Cough, 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 cough.
Oh, okay.
Cough, cough. Just a side note, Friday at 7:30 Eastern, Blaze Bourgeois, I hope I'm saying his last name correctly, will be joining me for an interview Friday at 7:30. Okay, just a reminder, if you're listening right now and you have any questions, the rules you want to put in place, rules you want to do away with, now's the time to come on up and talk to Matt Savage, so he can put it on the agenda for the TDA Summit, which is June 29th and 30th in Las Vegas at the Poker Go Studios. So now's your time. Have your voice heard. Please request a microphone. I did have a question or comments and questions submitted. So I'm going to go ahead and read this one right now, which I'm a little confused about, but maybe Matt can set me straight on it. The question and comments are, can you ask Matt about what kind of conduct merits players getting tossed from a game due to unsportsmanlike conduct? Example, throw chips or cards at a dealer. Do you get thrown out? If not, when? Question mark. How do we make the environment better for all involved in the game? It's all you, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to allow anybody to throw chips at the dealer. They will definitely be ex- excluded from the property. We've seen players wing cards in, and they're sent into the muck, and they bounce up and hit the dealer or another player. In that situation, maybe a 2-round penalty is warranted, but there's frustrations in this game. Let's be honest, it happens to all of us. So, one little thing like that, I believe. Uh, it shouldn't be a warning. It should be obviously a penalty. But yes, if somebody's throwing chips at a dealer or another player, they will be disqualified and eliminated from the tournament.
So, just as a side note, do you think there should be some kind of conduct merit system put in place?
I mean, I think players that have multiple infractions are known. And I think that, yeah, I mean, there is definitely a conduct merit system. I'm not going to let Cabral get away with things as much as I might let somebody else that I've never, ever had an issue with over my, last 30 years in
Right,
this industry. But of
right.
course, I think that that comes on a case by case basis. I don't think it's something that we can be written down. We're not going to have like a black book that's going to have people's names in it. But we all have a mental black book, that's for sure.
Of course, of course. And, I gave it some thought and I was like, it would be impossible to have a merit system. Who's going to keep up with it? Who's going to update it? And, what a nightmare that would be. But anyway, those are just my opinions, of course. Isaac, do you have any questions or comments for Matt? He may be working, but I did want to give him a chance if so. Anybody else have anything else they want to bring up to Matt? Now is the chance. Matt, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the summit or what's going
Oh,
on with the
definitely.
WPT?
I implore everybody that is out there to have their local tournament director sign up, register, come out. I mean, not only is it a great opportunity to discuss any kind of rule or procedure that you may want to get into the TDA, but also it's an amazing place to network, meet people, and try and make the game better for all of us. I think that that's something that we want to do for the TDA. We've always thought it's important that it is an open forum for all to be a part of. And the fact that, we have the Poker Go Studio as, a sponsor of ours and allowing us to be there. We're trying to make it better and better every second year that we have these summits. And, the fact that it has been such a great opportunity to standardize the rules and make it better for all the players that are playing the game. So the rules are the same wherever you go, from venue to venue, property to property. I think that's an important part of what we do. The most important thing that we do on the TDA, and I hope that it will continue and continue to thrive. And I respect the opinions of all players and all tournament directors out there that want to try and make the game better.
Well, and Matt's, preaching for the choir. And I'm just going to tell you that I've been to the TDA Summit. It's awesome. Everybody is welcome. Everybody's welcome to step up to that microphone. And that's what it should be like. It's an open forum, true transparency. It is awesome. And I'm just going to let you know, Matt, I'm coming hard on the topic of dogs this year. Coming hard.
Okay, well, I want to hear your opinion on that. I mean, what can we do? That's the thing.
Okay, so and I printed out the guidelines and rules or whatever off of the government site. And, there is a difference between emotional support dogs and service animals, right? And so I think that's really where the operator has to step up and say, I'm not afraid of the regulations in place. I just need to maybe learn them better so that I know where I can, like, how I can approach the owner of that animal. And there are two questions that the site lists that you can legally ask the dog owner when they are in your facility, so to speak, or your poker room. And I'm trying to hurry up and look at if I can find it. One of them is what task is your animal trained to do? And so they are supposed to tell you that they are trained to do. Maybe they carry things for you or go unlock stuff for you or whatever, or they are trained to sense when your sugar is low. So they are supposed to disclose, and I'm trying to look at this really quickly because there are two questions and I want to make sure I say it exactly like it's written in the law. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at 10 pages of paper. And the other question, um, well, I can't find it, of course, because I'm trying to look through this quickly. But my point is, there is a way for operators to approach the dog owner within the rules and regulations of the government to ensure that we're not just letting, I'm sorry, I am an animal lover, but I'm also a person that has severe allergies, and my health matters too. And I don't want to be at a poker table and have an asthma attack. And unfortunately, I'm afraid of dogs. So it's twofold for me. Um, I am actually probably going to bring some items with me to TDA so you could see what I would have to bring with me to a poker room that allows animals. And I have a feeling as we address this, more and more people are going to start bringing animals because that's kind of the mentality some people are. Well, you're not going to tell me. Well, the thing is, if it's if it is a service animal, no problem. Then the operator has to accommodate me as well and make sure that I'm not sitting next to that animal. How do we do that? Not sure. But I'm going to tell you, for me to sit next to an animal at the poker table, I would have to bring with me my breathing machine plus 100-foot extension cord so I could plug it in, plus my medicines, plus my emergency rescue, plus my eye drops, a mask to wear, and then one of those plastic shields that look like a welder because the dander gets into my eyes. I will get an allergic reaction that way. So not only would I have to wear a mask, I would have to wear one of those plastic face covers, as well as maybe even if I'm highly allergic to the breed, I might even have to wear gloves because the person is touching the chips. And that could be an issue for me because I'm right next to them. Then do I need to bring a piece of plastic with me or a piece of cardboard with me to put up as a barrier between me and that player and that animal? So it is a big topic for me because it becomes a life-threatening asthma attack. And if you don't know what an asthma attack is like because you're not asthmatic, just think of yourself when you were a kid learning how to swim and you were underwater and you thought you were drowning and you couldn't breathe because you couldn't take a breath of air because you're underwater. That's what it's like to be in an asthma attack. You can't breathe. And guess what? Your time is limited to get to an emergency room for help. So that means I have to bring that with me to the poker table now. And guess what? It's not fair. Why should I have to go through that? For an emotional support animal? Come on. And there has to be a way for me to be moved if I request to be moved. And now people say, well, that could be an angle shot. People don't like their table. And guess what? That's true. So then do we make a database that I submit stuff to? So when I come and say, hey, I can't sit next to this animal, you have a database that you go to. I don't know what the solution is. I just know I'm not willing to go to the hospital with an asthma attack with my life on the line for somebody to have their cute little dog with them. Thank you.
Okay, all good points. Yeah, going to be a discussion for sure at this year's summit. That there's certain laws and restrictions that we can't have because of it. There are people that even feel that it's unfair to the dog, and they are animal lovers too, that the dog has to sit there all day at the bottom with everybody's stinky feet for the entirety of the day. And then there are the fact that some of the dogs that have been in these places will bark and make noise and be, you know, do that. And also, we've had a dog that has bitten players and bitten floor staff too. So those type of situations need to be dealt with as well. It's a discussion that will come up this year at the TDA Summit. It's a very difficult one. I do think that the fact that people like you that have these certain allergies should be able to be moved, but again, something that needs to be handled on a case by case basis. The fact that certain players are bringing these dogs in just for fun and to have a cute animal with them. I think that's pretty well known who those people are. I think the people that have legitimate reasons for having dogs, those are pretty well known as well. Uh, but the fact that they do continue to bring the dogs in, it's a discussion that needs to be made. And, at some point, we're going to have to go and find out what the exact things we can ask and can't ask are, and whose dog we can have removed and whose dog is allowed to stay. But I agree that somebody that has a problem with that or an actual allergy to a dog should be able to be moved within reason. And again, we'll discuss this here at the summit.
And I will have plenty of copies of those, those rules and regs for the government to pass out that day. I did find the two questions you may ask. And it is the dog a service animal required because of a disability? That's the one question. The second question is, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? Those are the two questions you can ask.
And so if they say
No, that they're not legal or whatever. How do you say it? They're not a service animal. They are just a pet or as a comfort animal. What do you say?
each emotional
Emotional
support,
support.
yeah,
Right.
ESA, yeah. ESA, we'll say for short. But yeah, I think that's one of those things that yeah, we'll have to figure out because yeah, it is some people just don't like the dogs being in the room. And I don't think that's enough of a reason, but a reason like you have an allergy itself or a fear, even a phobia. My wife Marianne's afraid of dogs, so she
I'm going to tell you, you will not meet somebody more afraid of dogs. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone to people's homes. And if it's the first time I come to your home, I will pull in your driveway and I will call you from my car and say, hey, do you have any dogs by any chance? And if the answer to that is yes, I say, okay, I can't come in because unless they're put up because I'm really afraid of dogs. And of course, the loving dog owners always say, but my dog's different. They're really sweet. You're going to love them. And I'm like, no, I'm not coming in. I'm also allergic to them. So it's kind of twofold. Um, and so I pop an allergy medicine before I leave my vehicle. I make sure I have my inhaler in my pocket. And then they have their dog put up before I go in the door of that house. And so people that have been around me and seen me when a dog approaches, like I just freeze and I will not move until that dog is way away from me. Like it is, and you may ask why. I was attacked several times by Dobermans when I was a little girl. So I have good reasons. Not that I have to explain them to anybody, but that's not even the point for me. The point for me is my allergies because that's life threatening for me. So, green visor account, go ahead, Isaac.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say y'all should call that like the FTD rule. Fuck them dogs. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
And I do love dogs. I'm going to tell you, I do love dogs, and I actually grew up with dogs. And I didn't develop an allergy to them until my 30s when my allergies, when we moved to Georgia, all my allergies kicked in. And that was the first time I had an asthma attack in my life. And so it is definitely a health thing for me, and my health matters too. And I'm sure I'm not alone. But anyway, I'm coming at you with that one, Matt Savage.
I'm sure you are.
And I say that joking and lovingly. But as a side note, I just have to tell you, many of us have missed you, our little Towelie, Matt Savage, from visiting with us in spaces. So we were talking the other day, and Wolfie, Karen, Isaac, Turbo, and a few other folks that are going to be in Vegas for the WSOP and the meetup game at the Bellagio on June 26th. Want to know if you'll go karaokeing with us when we're there.
Yeah, I likely will be able to do that depending on my schedule. But yes, hopefully I'll be available for not only meetup games, but the karaoke session as well.
Yes, I love that. And I'll DM you as it gets closer, and we'll see if we can make that happen for sure. Unless anybody else has anything to bring up, we're going to let Matt get back to work because, he's working at the Hard Rock Hollywood at the WPT today, and he's walking around with earphones or earbuds so that he can talk to us while he's working. And we appreciate that effort for sure. So, last chance, folks, to come up. Request a microphone, or we're going to let Matt off the hook so he can get on with his day. ASG,
Uh,
anything else, buddy?
yeah, there's a question in the
Oh,
chat
please
from
go ahead.
Matt Tadler.
Go ahead.
He says, please ask Matt about TV broadcast, especially here when BT Sport, now TNT Sports, had a deal with WPT since 2025, no coverage since, and was wondering if Matt knows if they are still the broadcaster, if they've signed another deal with anybody else, kind of question.
I didn't quite hear the first part of that. What was the first part of that? Who?
It was about BT Sport. He's in England, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And he was asking about the TV contract with WPT.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, our international contracts are some of the strongest that we have, honestly. The fact that I'm not sure about BT Sports specifically, but actually the production team is here because we're filming here. So I'll ask about that and try and get back to that.
Yeah, he said that they haven't. He hasn't seen anything broadcast since 2025.
Okay.
So he was just kind of curious about
I'll ask that question when I see Locke. She's in charge of our production team.
Awesome. Okay, I do have a side note question about Club WPT Gold. I think I'm saying that correctly. What did you think of their little video of Alan Kessler and Kathy Lieber kissing and making out?
What did I think about it? I don't support a lot of the stuff that they post.
I know you don't.
But
First of all, she's a married woman. Okay, I have an issue
is
with it
she?
because she's a married. Yeah, isn't
Kathy's
she?
married? No, I don't
I
think
thought
so.
she was.
I
I
don't
thought
think
she
so.
was.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, I thought she was. Okay,
No.
so in that case, maybe can change my point of view, but I thought she was a married woman, and I was like, okay, that's really not, they're not coming at that correctly.
Yeah,
Well,
AI is wild for sure, and I don't support all the stuff that they post. Some of the stuff
they are funny.
they do
Look,
post
they
is
are funny
hilarious.
though, man.
Yeah,
They are funny though, man. Come on. They are some of the best trolls ever, but sometimes they go over the line and we have to speak up and say, okay, no.
yeah,
But anyway,
absolutely.
that was one of them for me. And I'm pretty open thinking. Go ahead, ASG.
Oh, so Gold reminded me. I know we had some discussion of it, but in today's age where people are trying to, WPT does this too, where they stream final tables. Like, should there be anything in the rules about unofficial deal making, especially when it gets heads up if there's only two players involved?
Should there be anything in the TD about unofficial deal making?
Like when there's only two players involved and you're streaming the table and some people are soft playing maybe heads up because they made a deal that somebody's going to win, but technically they had to play it out because the final table's streamed. Is that kosher by the rules?
Yeah, I just think that you always should allow deals if it's in fact their money. I understand that there's some prestige aspect of winning certain prizes and things like that, but yeah, I think deals should be allowed. But I also think if you were going to have play it out on a stream, they have to be playing for something, and it has to be something substantial. So our rule on the World Poker Tour is simple: that you're allowed to make deals, but the winner of the tournament has to win the most amount of money. And I think in some respects, anybody that wins a poker tournament would like to win the most amount of money. So the fact that that's the case, and of course, for us, not only are you winning the money, but you're also winning a seat to our season-ending World Championship with the win, and of course, putting your name on the Mike Sexton Champions Cup, which in my opinion is a strong honor to try and play for. So the fact all of
Heck
those things
yeah.
are in place, I'm comfortable with what the rules that we have on the World Poker Tour, and I don't think that it's the TDA's job to mandate what other companies allow and what they don't allow.
I agree. Okay, I had a question submitted via DMs from Craig Tapscott. Wants to know if you're a good golfer.
I'm a terrible golfer, but doesn't mean I don't try.
Hey, can't hurt. Hey, you can't hate a man for trying, and only way to get better is to try.
Yeah,
So practice makes
yeah.
perfect,
My
right?
my handicap has gone up and up and up, and my driver is shorter and shorter and shorter. But if I wasn't for my putting is always something that saved me.
Good for you. I was a pretty good chipper when I played. I could chip it into the hole from the sand trap. Like it was crazy. I had that on lock. My husband it would drive him crazy. He would say, I don't know how you do it. I don't know. I just have the angle or whatever, but I could make those, from the sand trap right into the hole for some reason. Um, Crazy. I haven't played golf in so long. It's on my bucket list to do once again before I die. But anyway, enough about me. Anybody else have any more questions or comments? Matt, you got anything else you want to tell us about? Matt, you there, buddy?
I am here. Yes, I
Okay.
am here.
You have anything else you want to bring up? Otherwise, we're going to let you go and enjoy
No,
your
just
day.
again, let me know anybody that needs to find out how to get that registration link. It's in my social media, Facebook, Twitter. I'm at Savage Poker. Can be reached through Instagram at the Savage Poker, and keep supporting the TDA. And we appreciate all you guys are doing on Spaces, and thank you so much for making this possible. And hope to see many of you out there in Las Vegas this summer.
Appreciate you, Matt, and everything you do on our behalf for sure. I'm a big fan. Happy to call you friend. I hope you drop in some of those daily shows I'll be hosting this summer and give us, updates on what's going on with the WPT and you and whatever. And of course, the TDA Summit. So appreciate you and your time. Andreas, appreciate you reaching out to have this space. It's been very informative. And of course, I always like when we can connect people. Everybody, have a great day. Don't forget to reach out to Matt if you have something you think is important enough to be put on that agenda at the TDA Summit. Appreciate everyone joining us this afternoon. Have a great afternoon and evening, folks. Thanks.
Thank you.